Hello and welcome to the Bhagavatam. Today we're talking about the blazing fire of ego. There are a few things that all of us have that we share in common, and three of them are a body, a mind, and a soul. I've spoken a lot about the soul in the past, but today let's take a look at the ego. The ego is that aspect of the mind which gives us a sense of identity. It is the operator of the mind, and we cannot get rid of it, even though some spiritual people would like to. When the ego is overdeveloped, in that it has an exaggerated sense of self, we tend to become arrogant, selfish, and even narcissistic. When it is underdeveloped, or it receives some kind of wounding or something that disrupts its functioning, almost corrupts its code, shall we say, if we talk in computer language, then we tend to lose confidence, and our mind tends to avoid risk, and we try to gain approval by further diminishing ourselves. The ego drives one to achieve, to prove, to seek approval and pleasure. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes this kind of thinking as follows: so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him, and my other enemies will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest person surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall give some charity. I shall do some good deeds, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. In fact, he refers to such people as being asura. In other words, not having a divine nature. Sura means that who is a divine being, a demigod, a person who is saintly, or even a person who's just a good, in the mode of goodness. But a person who is the opposite of that is an asura. Some say devil, demoniac, whatever, but I'm not so sure I agree with that translation. The point being that this is how the ego operates. And it's very natural for it to do so. The ego identifies with the mind, the body, and the world. It compares us to others. It desires things to be as good as or better than others. Either it's in terms of our possessions, our relationships, our life, and it laments when we are not good enough, as it often says to us. You're not good enough. What is wrong with you? You're not as good as the others. That's what it's essentially saying. And it laments when we are disrespected, insulted, or when things don't go our way. But the bottom line is this: the ego rules us, and we are its slaves. On the other hand, a wise person does not identify with either their mind, their ego, their body, or the things of the world. It doesn't mean they've got rid of their mind or their ego or their body. It simply means they do not identify with this external aspect of ourself. As a result, they are free from the sufferings caused by their own body and mind, the sufferings caused by other people or living entities, and by situations, circumstances, and conditions of life. Now think about it. The only difference was one word. They do not identify with the world, with their mind, with their ego, with their body. And as a result, they're free from suffering. So would you like that for yourself? If so, then come with us, walk with us as we learn from the wisdom of the sages. Last week in the Bhagavatam, we heard about Gargya, who had been ridiculed by his brother-in-law as a eunuch. Some people take things pretty badly. And when their ego is hurt or upset, then, as in this case, because not only was he insulted by his brother-in-law, but also the Yadavas, that's Krishna's family members, they laughed at him. It sometimes happens when people are joking and kidding around and saying stupid things. And of course, some of those things can be mean and they can be, hurtful. But this person, he felt so humiliated that he swore to take revenge. He did penance. In the old days, people did austerities and penance. They would go into the forest, they would meditate for many years, and then they would gain powers, Shakti, and with that power, they could actually hurt and harm others. So he did penance and worshiped Shiva for 12 years. And his wish was granted. On returning from the forest, he came across a person who was a Yavana, a warrior king. The Yavanas were very powerful, but this king was childless, and he wanted a son. So he requested this person who seemed like an ascetic, he seemed like really highly evolved. He said, look, I don't have a son, and I need someone to be with my wife and beget a son with her. And then the sage would leave. He would not stay on. So Gargya begot in this king, the Yavana king's wife, a son. And this son was called Kalyavana. So we talked about this last time, but I'm kind of giving you a refresher here. Kalyavana possessed the fury of Shiva in his aspect as Mahakal. See, as Mahakal, Shiva destroys the entire universe. So this Kalyavana had the power, the fury of being able to be that destructive. Kalyavana asked Narad, who was the most powerful. So Narad is the great sage, Narad Muni, who often goes between the Devas and the Asuras, between the demigods and the quote-unquote demons. I just think they're just atheistic beings, not interested in God and stuff like that. So Narad goes everywhere. Narad is compassionate to everyone, which is the nature of a devotee. Kalyavana asked Narad, the great sage, who is the most powerful warrior? And Narad, who is very wise, told him, Krishna. Krishna is the most powerful of all. He didn't tell him who Krishna is, and he didn't tell him why Krishna is so powerful. He just told him Krishna. So this Kalyavana arrived at Krishna's capital, Mathura, along with 30 million of his soldiers, 30 million Yavana soldiers. At the same time, King Jarasandha, who we talked about last week, who had attacked Krishna's capital, Mathura, 17 times already, and Krishna had thwarted all his attempts, defeated him, killed all his armies, and shamed the king and sent him back home walking without a chariot, without horses, without anything, right? This Jarasandha was determined because Krishna had killed his son-in-law, Kans, and Kamsa's wives were now widows. Those were his daughters. His daughters were widows. So Jarasandha, the father, was a powerful king, and he was not going to tolerate this Krishna. How dare he? Because Krishna was killing his army single-handedly, along with his brother Balaram. It was quite the sight. This king just couldn't take it. He just couldn't. So Jarasandha was about to arrive any day with his massive armies to mount the 18th attack on Krishna at Mathura. So now we had Kalyavana and Jarasandha both. Kalyavana had already arrived. He didn't know about Jarasandha, but Jarasandha was also about to arrive. At that time, Krishna, along with Vishwakarma, the architect of the Devas, created the massive island city of Dwarka. Now, I don't know if you've heard of Dwarka. Dwarka is an incredible place. So at that time, Krishna created the incredible city of Dwarka. And it had gorgeous palaces and homes. We went into detail as last week, but I just want to show you a little bit of that. And then he transported all the residents of Mathura. Okay, there were hundreds of them, perhaps thousands, I don't know. All the residents of Mathura, they were transported overnight to their new home, 800 miles away. So think about this. They were transported to this beautiful city, hundreds and hundreds of miles away, 800 miles away in today's terms. And when they woke up in the morning, they found themselves there. The same city now exists underwater because it was flooded over. So the next morning, Krishna came out of Mathura. Now everybody was gone, and Krishna came out, came out in his Vishnu form with 4 hands. And Kalyavana saw him. He's like, hey, this is the guy that I was going to fight with. And he wanted to go up to him and fight. But now Krishna came without weapons. Krishna came without a chariot. He came without a horse. He came barefoot. Just walking around as if it's a nice old day to be, sauntering around town. And Kalyavana went up to him and wanted to challenge him. He thought, oh, okay, I'll drop my weapons, I'll drop my chariot, and I'll just fight with him. We'll have a hand-to-hand combat. And Krishna kept walking, and Kalyavana kept trying to catch him and pull him around. And hey, you, come back here, come back. Krishna wasn't just ignoring him, just walking away. Kalyavana kept trying to catch him, kept trying to chase him, trying to get after him. It is said that when Krishna came out of Mathura, he looked like the rising moon. He is the Supreme Lord, and he was the most beautiful to behold. Kalyavana knew immediately that Krishna was this person. He had to get hold of him. So now as Krishna kept walking away, Kalyavana kept taunting him. Hey, you, what are you doing? Why are you walking away? You come and fight with me. He tried to catch Krishna, but each time Krishna seemed to almost be in his grasp, he would slip out and keep walking away. This went on till they reached a dark cave. Then Krishna entered the cave, and Kalyavana followed, and at that point he bumped into a sleeping man, and he thought that sleeping man was Krishna. So he made fun of the man who was lying down. Now here you are lying down, running away from me and lying down. Well, that person wasn't Krishna. That person was Muchukunda. And this man got up feeling very angry and cast his glance at Kalyavana, and Kalyavana's body at that moment burst into flames. And in a moment, he was burned to ashes. Now that's kind of what happens with our ego. Our ego is literally, if you want to take it symbolically for a moment, our ego is what destroys us. Our ego is at the heart of our destruction. We are proud, we are arrogant, we think we're powerful, we think we're great, we think we're something. Whether that something is just better than one person that we know or better than the whole world. Whatever it is, we think somewhere, somehow we're great. And if we don't think we're great, then we think I'm just this poor, lousy loser. And then we go the opposite extreme. But all right. At this point, King Parikshit, the one who's listening to the Bhagavatam and has been doing so, he was cursed to die. And there's a whole story behind that. We're not going into it. So King Parikshit is asking the great sage Sukadeva, who's narrating all of this. Remember, these are not some fantastical stories, but these are actual people with actual histories which have been recorded in the Vedas by great sages. The wisest people on the planet aren't here telling stories. They've got incredible philosophy, as you will see in just a moment. Philosophy that if you listen to will shake your entire life. It will change everything. And yet these very people are narrating these as itihasya, which means thus it happened. They narrate them as history. So, King Parikshit is inquiring, who was that man? Why was he sleeping in the cave? And what were his powers? And the great sage Shukadev, who has been given the seat of honor and is now speaking in front of hundreds of rishis. Rishis are highly evolved, saintly beings. He's responding. And he says that person who was in the cave, his name was Muchukunda. So you'll see that name over here, Muchukunda. And he was a great personality, born in the Ikshvaku dynasty as the son of Mandhata. He was devoted to Brahminical culture and always true to his vow in battle. See, in those days, battles were not fought by lying and cheating. They were not fought by deception and spy, all that kind of stuff. They were won by integrity. and values. It was incredible. There's an entire code in the Vedic time, and if you read about that, you'll get to know. But I'm not going to get into that today. So, you see, what had happened was that this person, Muchikunda, had been begged by Indra. Indra is the king of the Devas, the demigods, to help protect them when they were being terrorized by the Asuras. See, there are two big camps, the Asuras and the Suras. The Suras are the Devas or the demigods. They're the ones who are in charge of the affairs of the universe. They manage the universe. People say in Hinduism, oh, there's hundreds and thousands. No, actually millions of gods, and that they are absolutely right. But they are demigods. Means they are living beings just like you and I who have been empowered to manage the affairs of the universe. And if you understand that the universe consists of billions of galaxies, well, you're going to need millions of people to manage those, right? And so that's why there are so many demigods, devas. And these devas live in what are called the heavenly planets. So that means there are planets besides our own. Earth is considered the middle planetary system. And then there are the heavenly planets where life is longer, more people have more beauty, people have more. So these are alien beings, okay? They have much greater beauty than the people here. They're not these green-looking monsters that they show you in Hollywood movies. Incredibly beautiful, incredibly talented, incredibly powerful with all kinds of divine gifts and capabilities that we lack over here. There are planets where people can fly. There are planets where people can do all kinds of things without machines. Yogic powers of all kinds. They engage in all kinds of meditation and all kinds of practices that elevate them. And then there are planets that are more hellish, and those planets are ruled by the Asuras. Those Asuras sometimes are defined as demons, but they're not really demons. They're actually people who are atheistical. They are not interested in Dharma. They're not interested in the ways of God. They're interested in doing things their way. And you know, if you want to do things your way, you're most welcome. You've got that freedom. In this entire universe, everybody has the freedom. You want to be a murderer, a rapist, a psychopath, a tyrant. You want to be, whatever you want to be. But there will be consequences for you, for your family, for everybody involved who is in touch with you. So, karma, action and reaction, that will be there. That cannot be escaped. All right? So there are, as I said, higher planets, and the higher planetary systems, the devas, are very aligned with the path of Dharma, the path of God. They want to be godly. They want to carry out the instructions of God, and they want to carry out the ways of God. And they want to progress spiritually, and they want to advance and come and evolve. Whereas the Asuras just want to eat, drink, and be merry. And we've got lots of those on this planet as well. We've got lots of people who are interested in spirituality and want to grow and evolve. We've got lots of people who just want to enjoy. And that's fine. But what's the karma of someone who wants to just enjoy? Do they get to come back as a human being? It took thousands of lifetimes for us to have a human birth. And now that we have it, if we squander it and eat, drink, and be merry, well, then maybe there's an animal species that's more suited to the kind of enjoyment that we want. There are monkeys that can enjoy more sex than we can, or rabbits or whatever other creature. And there are other creatures like pigs that can eat all the time, all day long. We can only eat so much. Then our stomach gets bloated, and then we get sick, and then we can't handle it anymore. So we have limitations, but some of those animals don't. They can eat all day long. So Muchikunda had been called by Indra, the king of the Devas, of the demigods, to help protect against the Asuras who were attacking them and trying to take over the heavenly planets. After all, the heavenly planets were a lot nicer, so they wanted to have them. Muchikunda had been helping defend them for a long time. Later, the Devas received Kartikeya as their general. And then Muchikunda was relieved of his duty of protecting them. Devas informed him that during the time he had been in the heavenly planets protecting them, his children, queens, relatives, ministers, advisors, and subjects were no longer alive, because the time is very different on those other planetary systems than it is out here on Earth. So Thousands of years had passed. And so all of them had been swept away by time. And it says in the Bhagavatam, inexhaustible time, stronger than the strong, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. In other words, God, Krishna says, I am time, Kala Asmi Aham, I am time, destroyer of worlds. Oppenheimer quoted that statement. So time is stronger than the strong. It is inexhaustible. And it is God coming as time to show us that nothing in this world lasts. Everything here is temporary. And then it gives a beautiful analogy, like a herdsman moving his animals along, time moves mortal creatures. The universe, it is said here, is created to gradually rectify the contaminated soul. We are those contaminated souls trying to exploit material nature. The Supreme Lord moves along the conditioned souls according to their karma through the various stages of spiritual rectification. Thus, the Supreme Lord is like a herdsman. The word Pashupala literally means the protector of animals, who moves the creatures under his protection to various pastures and watering spots in order to protect and sustain them. A further analogy is that of a doctor who moves the patient under his care to various parts of a hospital for diverse kinds of examination and treatment. Similarly, Bhagavan, the Supreme Being, brings us through the network of material existence in a gradual cleansing process so that we can enjoy our eternal life of bliss and knowledge as His enlightened associates. Actually, that's what He wants. He wants us to come back home, be with Him. That's what God wants, to enjoy eternal life of bliss and knowledge, enlightened knowledge. Thus, all of Muchikunda's relatives, friends, and co-workers had long ago been swept away by the force of time. The Devas said to him, all good fortune to you. Now please choose a benediction from us, anything. You can have anything from us, anything you desire, money, wealth, fame, beautiful women, whatever it is you want, you can have it. Anything except liberation, since only the infallible Supreme Lord, Vishnu, can bestow that. Liberation is the same concept as the Buddhists say nirvana. It's the same concept as what the Christians call salvation. It simply means becoming free. It means becoming free of all suffering. It means becoming free of this world and being able to rise to the spiritual world. That's what it means. Any which way you look at it, it's the same thing. So in the purport it said, the king, exhausted by his labor, then chose sleep as his benediction. Remember, he wanted nothing else. He'd had everything in the world. He just wanted to sleep. He further stated, O best of the devas, O demigods, may whoever disturbs my sleep be immediately burned to ashes. The demigods replied, so be it, and told him, that insensitive person who wakes you in the middle of your sleep will immediately turn to ashes simply by your seeing him. And that's what happened to Kalyavana. Then King Muchikunda returned to earth and went to a cave where he lay down to enjoy the sleep they had granted him. Whilst in a deep sleep, he had been disturbed by the insolent Yavana, Kalyavana. With his gaze, he had been burnt to ashes. Now the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, had appeared along with Kalyavana in that cave, and now he revealed to Muchikunda his Vishnu form. Now, why did he do that? That's an interesting question, because he doesn't have to, he didn't need to, but he did. He revealed his Vishnu form with 4 hands. Krishna has 2 hands, but he revealed his form as Vishnu with 4 hands, because that's what Muchikunda had been worshipping. Muchikunda had been desiring to have this darshan, to see the Supreme Lord, to see him face to face. And that is possible for all of us. We can see him as Krishna, or we can see him as Vishnu as we desire. Vishnu, as Muchikunda saw him, was dark blue like a cloud, like a fresh rain cloud, it is said. He had 4 arms and he wore a yellow silk garment. On his chest he bore the Srivatsa mark, and on his neck the brilliantly glowing Kaustubha gem, adorned with a Vaijayanti garland, a garland of freshly picked forest flowers, the Lord displayed his handsome, peaceful face, which attracts the eyes of all mankind. Keep in mind, we're not talking here about some fearsome God who is sitting on a throne and sending people to hell. We're talking about someone who is beautiful, handsome, peaceful, and who's attractive, and who attracts the minds of all humankind with his shark-shaped earrings and affectionately smiling glance. The beauty of his youthful form was unexcelled, and he moved with the nobility of an angry lion. The highly intelligent king was overwhelmed by the Lord's effulgence, which showed him to be invincible. Expressing his uncertainty, Muchikunda hesitatingly questioned Krishna as follows. Muchikunda said, "Who are you, who have come to this mountain cave in the forest, having walked on the thorny ground with feet as soft as lotus petals? Perhaps you are the potency of all potent beings. Or maybe you are powerful god of fire, Agni Dev. Or maybe you are the sun god, Surya Dev. Or maybe you are the moon god, or the king of heaven, Indra, or the ruling demigod of some other planet. But in my heart, in my gut, I think you are the supreme personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, Sri Krishna. Among the three chief gods, since you drive away the darkness of this cave as a lamp dispels darkness with its light." Meditate on this form again. Effulgent, glowing, he dispelling the darkness of the cave as a lamp dispels darkness with its light. That's what he was seeing. And so that is, when he says you are a supreme personality among the three chief gods, he means Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. You are the supreme personality among these three. O best among men, if you like, please truly describe your birth, activities, and lineage to us who are eager to hear. As for ourselves, O tiger among men, we belong to the family of fallen Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas are warriors, rulers. We belong to the family of fallen Kshatriyas, and I'll explain in a moment why he says that. We are descendants of King Ikshvaku. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says he spoke the Bhagavad Gita originally to King Ikshvaku, and then the lineage was lost, and now he is repeating it again to Arjun. My name is Muchikunda, my lord, and I am the son of Yauvanashva. So it is explained in the purport that it is common in Vedic culture that a warrior, a Kshatriya, or a king even, will humbly introduce himself as Kshatrabandhu, a mere relative in a Kshatriya family, or in other words, a fallen Kshatriya. In ancient Vedic culture, to claim a particular status on the basis of one's family relation was itself indicative of a fallen position. I'm going to explain this. This is very, very significant in our time today. Kshatriyas and Brahmins, the Brahmins are the priests and Kshatriyas are the warriors, should be given status according to their merit by their qualities of work and character. This is stated in the Bhagavad Gita as well, where Krishna says, Chatur Varnam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. So there are two words that are very important here, Guna and Karma. That a person is known to belong to a particular caste based on their guna, that means their aptitude, their qualities, and their karma, their actions. One is not of a particular caste because of their birth. That was the abuse of the system. That was not what Krishna created. Krishna said, I have created this system. And today people misunderstand that because it was abused, no doubt. They misunderstand that this was some kind of oppressed kind of system. Yes, people made it that, definitely, but it's not what it started from. If something is corrupted, you cannot call that the original thing. And today, in the last 100 years or so, we've seen a massive reform of all of that. So those who now think that India has still got a very casteist society, personally, I don't even know what caste I belong to. I grew up in India. Okay, and it was never an issue, not anywhere. Yes, I know when people go to get married, they want to marry someone of a similar caste because they think they'll be of a similar background and culture. And for those reasons, they want to find someone of that caste. And yes, in some government jobs, that is the case as well till today. By and large, anywhere you go in society, that is not the issue. Okay? People have understood that that system was corrupted and it has been dropped from most parts of society. And yet we have some people here in the West, especially in big universities like Harvard and so on, which have taken up this case to make a big deal out of it and to make it seem as if people who were from India are somehow casteist and oppressors and so on and so forth. Yay. Have a discussion with me sometime. I'd love to do that. And get to the root of it. Do your homework. Study. Find out what is the original thing. And then come to discuss. Because otherwise you're just shooting in the dark, making false allegations and claims that have no validity in today's time. Or if they do, they are very small pockets here and there. So here it says, Kshatriyas and Brahmins should be given status according to their merit by their qualities of work and character. When the caste system in India became degraded, people proudly claimed to be relatives of Kshatriyas or Brahmins, though in the past such a claim, unaccompanied by tangible qualifications, indicated a fallen position. Meaning that in the past, when this system was created, if someone said that, oh, my father is a Brahmin or a priest and therefore I am a priest, he would be considered a fallen Brahmin, or a Brahma Bandhu was the word. A friend of a Brahmin, but not a Brahmin. Maybe he's the relative of. But that's not considered an actual person. A person who is a Brahmin, a Kshatriya, Vaishya, whatever, business person, is based upon their qualities and their actions, which is the case even today for everybody. You can't call yourself an engineer if you don't have the aptitude for it. You can't call yourself a businessman if you don't have the aptitude and you don't have the actions that follow through. It's true now as it was then. It is not something new. It has always been so, and it is so till today in every country of the world, except maybe some communist country. I don't know quite how it works out there. So Muchikunda continues, I was fatigued after remaining awake for a long time, and my senses were overwhelmed by sleep. Thus I slept comfortably in this solitary place until just now, when someone woke me. The man who woke me was burned to ashes by the reaction of his karma. Just then I saw you possessing a glorious appearance. He's talking now about Vishnu. I saw you possessing a glorious appearance and the power to chastise your enemies. Your unbearably brilliant effulgence overwhelms our strength, and thus we cannot fix our gaze upon you. It means I'm not able to see you because you're so effulgent, glowing. You're so like this light coming out of you. O exalted one, you are to be honored by all embodied beings. By the way, if you have any questions, feel free to write them down. I will be addressing all questions afterwards. And just go through this, and then I'm waiting to answer your questions. Whether you're on Instagram, on YouTube, wherever you are, please feel free to write down your comments, okay? Because you'll forget them later on, as most people do. So write them as you think of them. So thus addressed by the king, the supreme personality of Godhead, Bhagavan Sri Krishna, the origin of all creation, smiled and then replied to him in a voice as deep as the rumbling of clouds. So here you get some really deep insights into who is God. What does he look like? What does he do? What are his activities? We've been hearing this now from almost episode 77 of the Bhagavatam till now. We're about at the 109th episode. So you're going to see that there is so much knowledge, and we're going to have a whole lot more to come as well. There is so much wisdom here, so many answers, so many things to understand. And yes, you will have questions, so please don't hesitate. The Bhagavatam itself is full of questions. The Bhagavad Gita is full of questions. We love your questions, so please ask. Krishna said to Muchikunda, he says, my dear friend, I have taken thousands of births. I have lived thousands of lives and accepted thousands of names. In Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says this. He tells Arjuna, many, many lives both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot. Krishna says here, in fact, my births, activities, and names are limitless, and thus even I cannot count them. After many lifetimes, someone might count the dust particles on the earth, but no one can ever finish counting my qualities, activities, names, and births. Listen to this. After many lifetimes, someone, if they decided to count all the dust particles on earth, right, you could go maybe many, many, many lifetimes, and maybe you'd begin be able to count the dust particles on earth. But no one, he says, can ever finish counting my qualities, activities, name, and births. That many names, that many births. O Krishna, O King, the greatest sages enumerate my births and activities, which take place throughout the three phases of time, past, present, and future, and never do they reach the end of them. Nonetheless, O friend, I shall tell you about my current birth, name, and activities. Kindly hear. Some time ago, Brahma, the creator of the universe, we don't think of God as the creator of the universe. God delegates everything. He doesn't do anything himself. Everything is outsourced. And then he comes to interact with us. He comes to inspire us. He comes to invite us to come be with him. So Brahma requested me to protect dharma, the religious principles that were being destroyed on this earth. And he wanted me to destroy the asuras, the demons, the people who were creating havoc on earth. And we have lots of those even today. And they were burdening the earth. So Brahma had requested Vishnu to please come to the earth to kill the asuras, the demons who were creating havoc here and who were destroying the principles of dharma. I descended in the Yadu dynasty in the home of Vasudeva, Anakadundubi. Indeed, because I am the son of Vasudeva, people call me Vasudeva. I have killed Kalanemi, who was reborn as Kams. So that was the king Kams that he came and killed in Mathura. And this was at the age of 11. I have killed Kalanemi, who was reborn as Kams, as well as Pralamba. There were many, many demonic beings who were sent to kill Krishna. They were evil, they were wicked, they were very, very cruel. So he says, I've killed Pralamba and other enemies of the pious. And now, O king, this Yavana, this barbarian, has been burnt to ashes by your piercing glance. Since in the past you repeatedly prayed to me, I have... So that means clearly this person, Muchukunda, was a great devotee of Vishnu, and he had prayed to him. And so he says, since you repeatedly prayed to me, I have personally come to this cave to show you mercy, for I am affectionately inclined to my devotees. Now choose some benediction from me. He's willing to give him anything he wants. Once again, we're hearing this thing. He is willing to give him anything he desires. Choose some benediction from me, O saintly king, and I will fulfill all your desires. Now imagine if you were asked that question, what would you do? Would you want a nice house, a nice car, a lovely place, vacations all year long, millions and millions of dollars, unlimited wealth, unlimited life, unlimited... What would you want? Right? Think about it. He says, O saintly king, I will fulfill all your desires. One who has satisfied me need never again lament. In the purport, it is explained, the great gurus and acharyas explain that we lament when we feel incomplete, when we have lost something, or when we fail to achieve something desirable. But one who has satisfied Krishna and thus attained his mercy will never be troubled in these ways. Krishna is the reservoir, the fountainhead of all pleasure, and he enjoys sharing his spiritual bliss with all living entities. We need only cooperate with him. Cooperate is not about some laws being enforced upon us, but it is about aligning with the rules of the universe, with what works. And when you do what doesn't work, then there are consequences that will hurt you. So better to walk on that path, which will only help you progress, both materially and spiritually. So Muchukunda at this point, being offered anything in the world, anything that he could have desired, imagine, having that situation. He bowed down when he heard this. Remembering the words of the sage Garga, he joyfully recognized Krishna to be the Supreme Lord Narayan or Vishnu. At this point, Srila Sridhar Swami informs us that Muchukunda was aware of the prediction of the ancient sage Garga that in the 28th millennium, the Supreme Lord would descend. Garga Muni further informed Muchukunda that he would personally see Vishnu, and now this was all happening. He then said, Muchikunda said, the people of this world, both men and women, are bewildered by your illusory energy, this maya, this illusion. Some people call it the matrix in today's time. But they are bewildered by this illusion of the world, unaware of their real benefit, meaning what is actually beneficial for them. They do not worship you, but instead they seek happiness by entangling themselves in family affairs, in worldly affairs, which are actually sources of misery. In the purport, it is said, Muchikunda immediately makes it clear that he is not going to ask for material blessings. He has advanced spiritually far beyond those who try to exploit religion for all kinds of material benefits. See, most people, when they go to religion, they want material benefits. They'll pray to God, God, give me this and give me that, fix my problem, take care of my child, give me this, whatever I desire, and I will put $10 in the donation box, right? I will give you something. Oh no, you have been given everything. Every heartbeat you have has been given to you. Every breath you take has been given to you. This body has been given to you. What can you give back to God? Nothing. Nothing except all of you. And that is called surrender. That's the recognition that whatever I am because of you. You have given me everything. I am nothing without you. That is the honest truth. And we don't want to face that. We want to exist separately from God. We want to think, I am so great. I have done so much. I am so capable. Everybody loves me. I am so special. Yes, that's the ego talking. So he says here that most people come to religion for all kinds of material benefits. Artha means value, and the negation of this word, anartha, means that which is valueless or useless. Thus the term anarthadrik indicates those whose vision is focused on valueless things. That's most of us, right? We're focused on valueless things, who have not understood what actual artha or value is. So what is actual value? What is actually valuable? Is if the stuff of the world is temporary, we have it for a little while and then it's gone. This body, this mind, our things, our possessions, our money, our savings, our everything comes and goes. What is of real value? I want you to meditate on this. What is it that is of real value? Or let's put it a different way. When we die, we leave it all behind. What is it you take with you when you die? What is your eternal wealth? What is that wealth which cannot be lost? Maybe you don't know, but Krishna has given the answer to that. He says that all material things, all material assets and wealth and possessions and relations will be lost at the time of death. But the one thing you will take with you is your spiritual growth. That is your eternal asset. Your consciousness, as far as it has developed, not your knowledge, but your consciousness, to the degree that it has developed, that consciousness that is happening in your soul, those changes that occurred not at your mind level or your ego level, but at your soul level, those changes will go with you eternally. They will be your eternal gift. So your spirituality, the growth you actually make, is your eternal asset. And what that looks like, if you read the Bhagavad Gita, it's very clearly described. What are the qualities of a highly evolved being? Just chapter 2, Bhagavad Gita, read it. Or I've got an entire playlist of the Bhagavad Gita, which is there on YouTube. Please watch that. Right. So chapter 2, A and B, you'll find out what are the qualities of a highly evolved being, and then how close are you to those qualities, and what of that have you developed? Right. So many things, such as, for example, being equal in your vision, seeing everything, everyone as the same, recognizing that whether it is gold or it is stone, it is the same. Whether it is a rich person or a poor person, whether it is a beautiful person or an ugly person, they're all the same, because the soul is the same. And if you can see to the soul of that being, then you will recognize that we're all the same. It's not about being one. It's about being internally the same. Right? We have the same stuff. And yet we're different. We are simultaneously one and different. We are simultaneously same and different. I can explain that more. If you have any questions, please ask. So he says, all that glitters is not gold. And Muchikunda here emphatically states that we should not ruin our spiritual chances by entangling ourselves in the fool's gold of bodily relationships or material things. We are meant to love Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord, above all else. He continues, that person who has an impure mind, who despite having somehow or other automatically obtained the rare and highly evolved human form of life, does not worship your lotus feet. See, listen to this very carefully. The human form of life is very rarely obtained. There are so many species that we have traveled through. It is said in the Gita that there are 8,400,000 different kinds of species, of which only 400,000 are human-like species. So they could be on alien beings and so on and so forth. 400,000 types of human beings. Like if you look at blacks, one kind of species, whites, another kind of species, Indian would be a different kind. So there's so many varieties. And then if you go to other planets, there'll be other varieties of beings. And these varieties are just different types of dresses, different types of bodies. And we have sometimes been in one kind of body. You may have been in a black body in one life and a white body the next, or vice versa. You may have been in a Chinese body in one life and now in an American body, and you could go back to being in a Chinese body. There is no saying. Or you go to a dog's body, they're just different dresses. Krishna compares in the Bhagavad Gita that the body is just like a dress, and that when we die, we give up an old and useless body, just like we give up an old and useless dress, or a car, or a house. So that person has an impure mind who, despite having somehow or other automatically obtained the rare and highly evolved human form of life, but does not worship God, does not worship your lotus feet. Like an animal that has fallen into a blind well, such a person has fallen into the darkness of material existence. Purport, it explains, our real home is the kingdom of God. Despite our tenacious determination to remain in the material home, in our material home, death will rudely eject us from the theater of material affairs. To stay at home is not bad, nor is it bad to devote ourselves to our loved ones. But we must understand that our real home is eternal in the spiritual world. The word ayantnataha indicates that human life has been automatically awarded to us. We have not constructed our human bodies, and therefore we should not foolishly claim this body is mine. This human form is a gift of God and should not be used to achieve, and should be used to achieve the perfection of God consciousness. So it's not talking about one religion or another. God consciousness. Become conscious of God. Become conscious of God by looking at everything around you and recognizing that God is in every atom of the creation. Does that make us a nature worshiper? No. It makes us a person who understands that God's energy pervades the entire universe. Then he is also present in every one of us. Along with the soul is the Paramatma, the Supreme Soul, who is present in every one of us, witnessing our life, in every being, in every one of us. And besides that, he exists outside of this material universe. With all its billions of galaxies, he exists outside of that in the spiritual world, the light. Within that light exists the being, God. And so in so many ways, he tries to reach out to us. And he says here, one who does, so that is the perfection of life, God consciousness, to become conscious of God. It's not about believing in God. It's not about the religion you belong to, because I understand that God doesn't have a religion. God is not the possession of any religion. No. God consciousness means to become conscious and aware of the presence of God in everything, in everyone, everywhere, right? It's not enough to just go to a temple, a church, a mosque, and do your little thing on a Sunday or whatever day you go. No, it must result. That may be a beginning point, and that's fine, but it is important to develop God consciousness, to become conscious, aware. That is the beginning of spirit. That is where spiritual life really begins. And he says here that one who does not understand this is possessed of dull, mundane understanding. So according to him, a person may be very brilliant. He may be genius, may have all the knowledge of the world, may know all kinds of facts and figures, maybe any kind of genius, right? But that person has dull, mundane understanding, because this is just about the world. He doesn't understand the world beyond this world. I'm not saying you shouldn't understand the world. Be the engineer, be the doctor, be the whatever, the genius that you are. But the real genius is the one who understands God. He says further, I have wasted all this time, O unconquerable one, becoming more and more intoxicated by my kingdom and opulence as an earthly king. Please do some soul searching. We're all in this same boat. We have wasted this entire life, most of us, including me, becoming more and more intoxicated with pleasures, with wealth, with enjoyment, trying to squeeze as much as we can out of this world. He says, I have become more and more intoxicated by my kingdom and opulence as an earthly king, misidentifying the mortal body as the self. Think about it. If somebody asks you, who are you? You say, well, this is me. I'm male, or in your case, you might be female, or male, or whatever, transgender, I don't care, whatever. The point is, you'll identify with your body. This is me. I am young, I am old, I am this, I am that. I am of this race, I'm of this nationality, but that's all the body. That is not you. So he says, misidentifying the mortal body as the self and becoming attached to other bodies, children, wives, and other things, my treasury and my land. And thus I suffered endless anxiety. Think about anxiety for a moment. We all have it, but what is it about? We have anxiety over our things. We have anxiety over our people. We have anxiety over ourselves. But if we weren't attached to any of this, would we have any anxiety? No. If we understood what he's saying here, that I am none of this. None of this has anything to do with who I really am. Who I am, I have a body. I am not my body. I have a mind. I am not my mind. I have things, but I am not those things. And if something happens to my car, if I'm still safe, then I'm okay. So the anxieties we have are manufactured by the mind. And it is only when we are able to overcome the mind itself and the ego that we can actually become free of anxiety. Therefore, the spiritual world is called Vaikuntha, the land of no anxiety. And that world does not just exist somewhere out there, but that world can exist right here, right now. We can be in a place of no anxiety. Then he continues, with deep arrogance, I took myself to be the body, which is a material object, like a pot or a wall. So the body is like a container for the soul. He's comparing the body to a pot or a wall. Thinking myself a god among men, I traveled the earth surrounded by charioteers, elephants, cavalry, foot soldiers, and generals, disregarding you, God, in my deluding pride. A man obsessed with thoughts of what he thinks needs to be done, intensely greedy and delighting in sense enjoyment, is suddenly confronted by you, who are ever alert. Like a hungry snake licking its fangs before a mouse, you appear before such a person as death. See, ultimately, time. So Krishna says, I am time. And time, it's not that God wants to kill us. No. He has set up the system in such a way that we are born at a certain time and we die at a certain time. So what he's saying is, I was confronted by the fact that all my family members died. And a person who is busy chasing material things ultimately comes to that point of death and has to confront that. I will lose everything I have. I will even lose this body. I will lose my mind. I will lose my intelligence. I will lose my beauty. I will lose everything. And I've devoted my entire life to this. What a shame it is. The body that at first rides high on fierce elephants or chariots adorned with gold and is known by name king is later by your invincible power of time called feces, worms, or ashes. This is the reality. In the purport, it's written, in the United States and other materially developed countries, dead bodies are cosmetically disposed of in a tidy, ceremonial way. But in many parts of the world, old, sickly, and injured people die in lonely or neglected places where dogs and jackals consume their bodies and transform them into stool. And if one is so blessed as to be buried in a coffin, one's body may very well be consumed by worms and other minuscule creatures. Also, in many cultures, bodies are burned and thus transformed into ashes. In any case, death is certain, and the ultimate fate of the body is never sublime. Muchikunda states that the body, though now called king, prince, beauty queen, upper middle class, and so on, will eventually be called stool, worms, and ashes. Think about it. That's what your body will be called one day. Having conquered all directions and being thus free of conflict, a man sits on a splendid throne, receiving praise from leaders who were once his equals. But when he enters into a woman's chamber where sex pleasure is found, he is led about like a pet animal. A king who desires even greater power than he already has strictly performs his duties, carefully practicing austerity and foregoing sense enjoyment. But he whose urges are so rampant, thinking, I am independent and supreme, cannot attain happiness. Why? Why can a person who thinks, I am independent and supreme, not attain happiness? Write it in the comments. What are your thoughts? Right? Even if somebody tries to gain great power, and by austerity, doing difficult things, taking on challenges, foregoing enjoyment. The people who just want to eat, drink, and be merry don't get too far. The people who really work at something, they forego pleasures so that they can attain their goals. So he says, even though you may practice austerities and forego sense enjoyment, and even though you may become so powerful, and you may think, I am independent, I am supreme, yet you will not attain happiness. When the material life of a wandering soul has ceased, he may attain the association of your devotees. Think about that. When, just like you're here right now, you are gaining the association of someone who is devoted to God. That's the whole idea. And when you come across someone like that, it says here, when the material life of a wandering soul has ceased, he may attain the association of your devotees. And when he associates with them, there awakens in such a person devotion unto you, who are the goal of the devotees and the Lord of all causes and their effects. My Lord, I think you have shown me mercy, since my attachment to my kingdom has spontaneously ceased. So just by seeing Vishnu, his attachment to his kingdom has spontaneously ceased. Such freedom is prayed for by saintly rulers of vast empires who desire to enter the forest for a life of solitude. In the past, all kings would do that. All those who were saintly kings, shall I say, would do that. They would at some point leave their kingdom to their elder children and then go off into the forest to lead an ascetic life and focus on meditation and prayer and evolving themselves spiritually. They were done with their responsibilities, and now it was time to devote themselves to a spiritual life and gain that eternal wealth and liberate themselves from the cycle of birth and death. Then he says, O all-powerful one, I desire no boon, no blessing, no benediction, other than service to your lotus feet, the boon most eagerly sought by those who are free of material desire. Please think of this. When I asked you the question earlier, what would you want if you were told you could have anything you desire, all your material desires, whatever you want, you can have it? What did you think? And now here is Muchikunda. He says, I desire no boon, no blessing, no benediction, other than to serve you. The boon most eagerly sought, this is the boon, this is the blessing most eagerly sought by those who are free of material desire. The fact that we desired things is an indicator of our attachment to the world. It is what keeps us bound to this world. It is why we do not see God. It is why we are caught in our anxieties and in the cycle of birth and death. If you want to actually get out of this cycle of birth and death, if you want to become free of suffering, if you want to actually see God, there is a price you must pay. There is a ticket for entry. It doesn't happen just like that. And that ticket is to let go the material attachments. If you want to go from, let's say you're in a little boat in the ocean and there is a big ship that has come your way, and you need to go from your little boat to the big ship. Well, you got to let go the little boat. You can't take your little boat with you into the big ship, unless they've got some way to do that, great. But otherwise, you have to step out of one boat and into the other. You got to let go, like a child lets go of their toys as they grow up, and then they start to enjoy, bigger things, real house, real car, real stuff, no longer the toys. So similarly, when we grow up spiritually, if you get the reason that we're not able to do this is because we haven't purified ourselves. We haven't purified our heart, our mind. But as we take on this process, that purification begins to happen. That cleansing of the mind, that purification of the heart begins to happen. And as that happens, we are now able to become free of desire. That is the consequence. Muchikunda says, "Oh Hari," that is another name for Vishnu. "What enlightened person who worships you, the giver of liberation, would choose a boon that causes his own bondage?" He says, if I had chosen anything of this world, it would have caused my bondage. I chose only you. Therefore, putting aside all objects of material desire, I am approaching you, the supreme Godhead, for shelter. You are the supreme absolute truth, full in pure knowledge and transcendental to the material modes. For so long I have been pained by troubles in this world and have been burning with lamentation, and I can find no peace. Therefore, O giver of shelter, O supreme soul, please protect me. In the midst of danger, I have by good fortune approached you and your lotus feet, which are the truth and which thus make one fearless and free of sorrow. Your lotus feet means when I take shelter of you, you are the ultimate truth. Param Satyam Dhimahi, it says in the Bhagavatam, right in the beginning. You are Param Satyam, the ultimate truth, the absolute truth. And that which makes one, and what is the symptom of that absolute truth? That one becomes fearless. And what else? Free of sorrow. These are symptoms of a person who has become highly evolved. They have become fearless and free of lamentation. Krishna says, the wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. How does one reach such a state? It's such an incredible state. We can't even imagine it. How can I not lament either for the living or the dead? Oh, you're being cold, you're not being compassionate. No. It's not about compassion. This is when you can begin to see the soul's journey and you begin to understand how the soul is transmigrating through various things and is being affected by its karma. And when you can see beyond the illusion, then at that point you are not affected by whatever happens to the living or the dead. At this point, Krishna replied, O Emperor, great ruler, your mind is pure and potent. Though I enticed you with benedictions, your mind was not overcome by material desires. Understand that I enticed you with benedictions just to prove that you would not be deceived. The intelligence of my unalloyed devotees is never diverted by material blessings. And unalloyed means, so when you have gold and you have an alloy mix in it, right? So that's an alloy that you might mix some copper into the gold. So instead of being pure 24 karat gold, it is 14 karat or 8 karat or whatever gold. But unalloyed would be like pure gold, 24 karat gold. So my unalloyed devotee, my pure devotee, is never diverted by material blessings. They have no interest in these things. The minds of the non-devotees who engage in practices such as pranayam, that is yogic practices, or various other things that they want, are not fully cleansed of material desires. Even the desire for liberation is a material desire. The desire to become free of suffering is a material desire. I'm in so much pain. I want to get out of this world. I want to merge into the light. I want to become one with God. No, that's again a selfish desire. Thus, O king, material desires are again seen to rise in their minds because they've not been fully cleansed of them. Wander this earth, now Krishna is telling him, wander this earth at will with your mind fixed on me. The Bhagavad Gita also he says that, Man mana bhava mad bhakta madhyaji mam namaskuru. Always think of me, become my devotee, give your love to me, surely you will come to me. May you always possess such an unfailing devotion for me. Because you followed the principles of a Kshatriya, a warrior. You killed living beings while hunting and performing your duty. So he's got some karma to work through. You must vanquish the karma, the sins thus incurred, because he killed many living beings, by carefully executing penances while remaining surrendered to me. O king, in your very next life you will become an excellent Brahmin, a priest, the greatest well-wisher of all creatures, and certainly come to me. In the purport, it is written in the Bhagavad Gita, Suhridam sarva bhutanam gyatva mam shantim adhigacchati. A person attains peace by understanding me, Krishna, to be the well-wishing friend of all living beings. Shri Krishna and his pure devotees work together to rescue the fallen souls from the ocean of illusion. All right, so with that we'll end. I know it's been long. And I see some lovely questions over there. I want to get to those. If any of you who are here have further questions, please write them down. I'm just going to address all the questions now. All right. So, Muchikunda, who was he and why was he in the cave? Brittany, that question was answered in this. I hope you can catch up on that later. There is a whole detailed explanation of who he was. He was a king. I'll tell you the brief answer to that. He was a king. He had been fighting on the side of the devas, the demigods. And when they had someone to replace him, they then gave him the blessing that he could go and he could, then he just said, I don't want anything. They offered him that they would give him anything he desired. And he said, no, I don't want anything. I just want to be able to sleep. So he went to this cave. But if you catch up on the earlier part of it, you'll get all the detailed answer. Okay? He'd been sleeping for a long time and knows that his body and all his body's needs are no longer what he wanted. He'd been sleeping for a long time and knows that his body and... Okay, let me put this up here. Been sleeping for a long time and knows that his body and all his body needs are no longer what he wanted. Okay. Yeah, but not because he was sleeping. It's because he had been working on his spiritual life all those years. And so therefore now he knew that he didn't want anything else. There was no other desire that he had. Okay, got something more? Okay, all right, I get it. Okay, you had asked the question earlier. Understood. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Brittany, for asking your questions. Anyone else have any questions? I'd love to hear from any of you as well. We've got quite a few people on Instagram as well. I'd love to hear anything that you might have in mind. But if not, next time, please do write down your questions. I love the fact that people are asking questions. It really helps in making things more clear. And I value your inputs. Remember, this is not a place of believing. This is a place of questioning. This is a place of, just really don't sit down and just believe anything I tell you. Don't. Please don't. There's no value in that. Ask until you're truly satisfied. Yeah? And the result of being truly satisfied, whenever that happens, is that you will begin to take this knowledge and put it into action. Apply it. And that's the final and ultimate test. When you apply this knowledge is when you'll know whether it really works or it doesn't. Don't believe. Act. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you all. I'll see you next week. Tuesdays. I'm now starting a little earlier than before, so that's 6 p.m. on Pacific time. And it's that's 9 o'clock here on Eastern time. And in India, let's just take a look at that. That would be it's now 8:46. So when we started, it must have been 7 o'clock. Okay. No, it's 7:30 in India. 7:30 is when we start in India time, Wednesday. Yeah. Okay. Wednesday, 7:30 a.m. India. Otherwise, if you're in the East Coast, then it's 9 p.m. And if you're in California or the West Coast, then it's 6 p.m. All right. See you guys next week. Take care. Hare Krishna.